causes massive hemorrhage. Treatment is the resection of the septum before delivery and during delivery. Absent vagina and the functioning, but the vagina is absent. It's a rare disease. Normal development of the uterine body, but failure of the development of the cervix and upper vagina. It's a congenital disorder. The clinical features will be the cyclical abdominal pain because of the collection of blood inside the uterine cavity, no pelvic mass, the patient has no problem in defecation or micturition, small hematometra because the uterine cavity is less distensible as compared to the vagina. Retrograde menstruation occurs when there is a collection inside the cavity. There is a chance that the blood spill out through the tube into the pelvic cavity, and it causes endometriosis or pelvic adhesion. Treatment is just reconstructive surgery, adhesiolysis, and patients sometimes needs infertility treatment due to these adhesions or endometriosis. Absent vagina and non-functioning uterus are sometimes called Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Foster syndrome. Most common cause of primary amenorrhea, second only to the Turner syndrome. Patient is 46XX with Malarian agenesis. This occurs 1 in 4,000 and 1 in 10,000 females. Secondary sexual characteristics usually present. Ovary is functioning, but the entire body of the uterus and the cervix along with upper part of the vagina is absent. Sometimes there is a small rudimentary or rudimentary uterus. Examination reveals normal external female genital tract, blind ending vaginal dimple just 1.5 centimeter. 40% of these women have renal anomalies and 50% have major anomalies. Sometimes 15% have absent kidneys. Treatment starts with psychological counseling because some mental or psychological trauma for the woman or the girl. Patient will be infertile. You have to counsel the patient regarding the fertility and the options available to treat the fertility. There is a need for the correction of vaginal anatomy. Patient should be provided with vaginal dilators or advice for the sexual activity. Sometimes patient needs vaginoplasty, McIndoe and Vicchiati procedures. McIndoe procedure in the vaginoplasty is done, as I already said, with the help of patient tissue. The graft is taken from the thighs of the patient or sometimes with the placenta, amnion or the layer of the placenta like amnion or chorion. A Vicchiati procedure is a procedure in which the loose aerial tissue in the vagina, there is a olive plastic, it's made of plastic, is inserted into the vagina, and there is a loop of wires which are connected with the anterior abdominal wall. Then it produces dilatation and make the space inside the vagina. It helps in making the space inside the vagina. XY androgen insensitivity. XY, the patient has XY um, chromosomal pattern. It's a female phenotype. There are two types of XY androgen insensitivity, either the anatomical testicular failure or the second is the enzymatic testicular failure. In the anatomical testicular failure, there is the complete distortion or the complete absence of the testis. In the enzymatic testicular failure, the testis is there, but there is some enzyme which are deficient that cause changes. Failure of normal. First, we discuss about the anatomical testicular failure. That is the failure of the normal testicular differentiation and development. There will be a sex hormone mosaicism. In the mosaicism, there are two gene lines, 46XX and maybe 46XY. There are two separate gene lines. Clinical features depends upon the testicular differentiation. How much testicular tissues differentiate, the symptoms will depend upon this differentiation. It ranges from mild masculinization or none at all. Uterus, tubes, and vagina are generally present. Uterus, tubes, and vagina are generally present because if there is a anatomical testicular failure, it means the testis is not producing Mullerian inhibiting hormone. If the testis is not producing Mullerian inhibiting hormone, the uterus and tube, it means that the paramesonephric duct from which the uterus, tubes, and vagina originate is still there. And Mullerian inhibiting factor in the embryonic life inhibit the development of the paramesonephric duct. But there, the absence of the Mullerian inhibiting factor is not there. So the uterus, tube, and vagina are usually or generally present. Management is the reconstruction of external genitalia because the chromosomal makeup of this patient is XY. XY. It means that the testis is there but may be rudimentary. Testis has no role in the phenotype of this patient. So we have to first remove the rudimentary gonad because if the rudimentary gonad is inside the abdominal cavity, there is a risk of malignancy 30% in these patients. First, you have to remove them. Second, about the psychological counseling of the patient regarding the reconstruction of external genitalia. It depends upon the rearing of the patient who presented you. This patient should be in the female phenotype or the male phenotype. Because if there is Mullerian inhibiting factor and there is a presence of uterus, tube, and vagina, testicular tissue is already absent, there is a more chance that patient is phenotypically female. There is no breast development in these patients, so it's better to provide these patients with estrogen and progesterone replacement therapy for breast development. Enzymatic testicular failure. Enzymatic testicular failure in such a way that testis is there, but certain enzymes are absent in the pathways that leads to the androgen receptor, that leads to the testis, the failure of the testis to produce testosterone, or certain receptors are absent or failure of the function. Peripheral conversion of androgens to estrogen and subsequent. Uh, what happens in the enzymatic testicular failure? The androgen receptors are absent or fail to function. That's why all the testosterone is converted into estrogen. So in these patients, there is well-formed breast, short vagina, normal vulva, and scanty pubic hairs. Because the Mullerian inhibiting factor is still there, so there is no development of the paramesonephric duct. So the difference is that in the enzymatic testicular failure, a well-formed breast, short vagina, normal vulva. Phenotypically, this is presented as a female patient. But if there is anatomical testicular failure, this patient is also, but there will be no breast development. This diagram is showing the XY chromosomes pattern and the patient with well-formed breast or external genitalia is a female pattern. And this is a newborn genetic male 46XY with complete androgen insensitivity and female with female external genitalia. This slide is showing how germ cells is formed on the genital crest, then goes into the testis, and testis produces two types of cells, Sertoli, Leydig cells besides germ cells. Leydig cells produces testosterone and Sertoli anti-Mullerian hormone. Anti-Mullerian hormone is also produced by the ovary from the antral follicles. It causes Mullerian regression. Testosterone is responsible for the development of the internal male genital organ, and this testosterone is converted into dihydrotestosterone by the enzyme 5-alpha reductase. and the formation of responsible for the formation of external male genitalia. This slide is showing how cholesterol ended up with the formation of aldosterone, cortisol, and estradiol. In this pathway from cholesterol to cortisol or aldosterone, there is an important enzyme 21 alpha hydroxylase. The deficiency of this hormone causes increase in the formation of 17 alpha hydroxyprogesterone. If the 21 hydroxylase enzyme is deficient, the body will be deficient in aldosterone and cortisol, and there will be deficiency of these produces electrolyte imbalance, and all the 17 alpha hydroxyprogesterone will be converted into androstenedione, will be converted into testosterone. All testosterone will be converted into estradiol, and the body will be phenotypically female. Resistant ovarian syndrome is extremely rare. Patient have normal ovarian tissue, normal secondary sexual characteristics, but the ovary fail to respond because of the absent or the malfunctioning FSH receptors in the ovarian follicles. If you do the biopsy of this ovary, there will be follicle, but due to the deficient receptors, ovary will not respond. That is called the resistant ovarian syndrome. Constitutional delay. In a patient who will not menstruate by the age of 16 or by the age of 14 in the absence of secondary sexual characteristics, no anatomical abnormality usually found on examination or on investigations. Endocrine investigation like FSH, LH, prolactin, TSH all comes normal. Immature pulsatile release of GnRH. Menstruation usually starts spontaneously. Patient just need or attendance reassurance. Now we will discuss the patient without secondary sexual characteristics with normal height. There are two types of patient without secondary sexual characteristics. Either they are with normal height or with short stature here. Short stature, short height. There are certain congenital aspects like isolated GnRH deficiency, olfactogenital syndrome, acquired anorexia nervosa, excessive exercise and hyperprolactinemia, along with these all comes in the category of hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism, because for the hormones to work or the formation of hormones, there is a certain percentage of fat needs in the body, because these fats are responsible for the formation of hormones. So when the patient has weight loss or excessive exercise like ballet dancers, athletes, so the deficiency of fat in the body that causes hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. Sometimes hyperprolactinemia, increase in prolactin secretions give negative feedback to the pituitary gland. In response to that, there will be decreased secretion of FSH and LH that causes hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. Isolated GnRH deficiency, olfactogenital syndrome. In this condition, the hypothalamus lacks the ability to produce GnRH. Pituitary gland is normal, but there is no GnRH to act on the pituitary gland, so that pituitary gland secrete FSH or LH. Stimulus with exogenous GnRH causes the release of that FSH and LH. Maldevelopment in the arcuate nucleus of hypothalamus is responsible for this isolated GnRH deficiency because it is derived embryologically from an olfactory bulb. So these patients are unable to smell anosmia. This is also called Coleman syndrome. Hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism. Hypergonadotrophic hypergonadism. 46XX in this category comes gonadal agenesis, gonadal dysgenesis, ovarian failure, or galactosmia. 46XX or 46XY disorders of sexual development. Gonadal agenesis is a complete absence of gonads. It occurred in XX chromosome pattern and X1. Gonadal dysgenesis, maldevelopment of gonads. It comes in the Turner mosaic or XY enzymatic failure. Gonadal agenesis, complete failure of the development of gonads. Girls may be either 46XX or 46XY because male phenotype Y chromosome is responsible for the male phenotype. If there is no Y chromosomes, the body ultimately would be transformed into the female phenotype. It is an autosomal recessive disorder. Genes other than those located on X chromosomes are involved. There is an absence of testicular determining factor which is responsible for the complete failure of the development of gonads. Failure of the production of androgens and Müllerian inhibiting factor. If there is no Müllerian inhibiting factor, there will be a development of internal female genital organs. Wolffian structure is regressed, but the Müllerian structures grow or develop. Girls with XY also has menstruation because of the development of the female internal genital organs and the height usually above normal. Gonadal dysgenesis, the maldevelopment of the abnormal formation of the gonads. It's vary with the degree of differentiation of the gonads. Commonest is the Turner syndrome. Turner syndrome has single X chromosome. Sometimes it presents with mosaicism, in which the cell line is 45X like 46XX, or deletions of the short or long arms of the X chromosomes. In XY dysgenetic gonads, there is enzymatic failure of testosterone production, but normal production of Müllerian inhibiting factor. Müllerian atrophy, no Wolffian structure, and the female external genitalia is present with short vagina. Patient with short stature and absent secondary sexual characteristic. Hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. The causes are congenital hydrocephalus, acquired like trauma, empty sala turcica syndrome, tumors, hypergonadotrophic hypogonadism, sex hormone with delayed sexual development, Turner syndrome, heterosexual development. Heterosexual development means both the ovarian tissue and the testicular tissue present in these patients. 46XS, delayed sexual development, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, androgen secreting tumor, absent Müllerian inhibitor. 46XY, 5-alpha reductase deficiency, partial androgen receptor deficiency, sex hormone, true hermaphrodite. In true hermaphrodite, both the ovarian tissue and the testicular tissue are present. Heterosexual development means the both types of organs are present in these patients. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia occurs due to the deficiency of certain enzymes, the deficiency of 21-hydroxylase, then the elevated levels of androstenedione 17, hydroxyprogesterone, and testosterone. It may be congenital. Virilization of the female fetus. If it's congenital, virilization of the female fetus due to the deficiency of 21-hydroxylase, there is an accumulation of 17-hydroxyprogesterone, which will be converted into androstenedione, and then it will be converted into testosterone. And there's an increased formation of testosterone, which produces increased estrogen, and this estrogen this testosterone is responsible for the virilization of the female fetus, clitoral hypertrophy, vagioscrotal fusion, Urethral opening is usually lies on the dorsal surface of the clitoris. There will be a normal development of mammalian duct and ovaries because of the XX chromosomal pattern. At birth, salt losing syndrome, which is life threatening and it should be treated aggressively. You should send electrolytes and the treatment with corticos, cortisol, sodium. Cortisol should be given throughout life of the patient, and patient sometimes needs surgical correction of the external genitalia. XY female. The external genitalia are of the female type due to the deficiency of 5-alpha reductase deficiency. Testosterone could not be converted into 5-hydrotestosterone, which is responsible for the formation of the external genitalia of male type. Internal genitalia are normal, like male pattern. Malarial inhibitor leads to Malarian agenesis. Patients are usually amenorrheic. They are just phenotypically male, female. So it's all about primary amenorrhea. Now we come on the secondary amenorrhea. Secondary amenorrhea is defined as the cessation of menstruation for 6 consecutive months in a woman who had regular periods previously. If a patient comes with secondary amenorrhea, you first have to exclude the pregnancy by doing urine pregnancy test, by taking history, by doing examination, or by sending serum beta hCG. What are the causes of the secondary amenorrhea? The commonest cause is the polycystic ovarian syndrome, then the premature ovarian insufficiency, hyperprolactinemia, weight-related amenorrhea, hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism, hypopituitarism, and the exercise-related amenorrhea. Secondary amenorrhea is usually classified according to the organs involved. Uterine causes, ovarian causes, hypothalamic causes, hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism, pituitary causes of hypothalamic pituitary damage, or the systemic causes. The causes are reversed. It starts from the uterine causes. And patients with primary amenorrhea causes usually starts from the hypothalamus or above than that from the chromosomal pattern. Asherman syndrome. Asherman syndrome, as a diagram shows, the adhesions in the uterine cavity. It is the intrauterine adhesions which prevents the normal growth of the endometrium. These intrauterine adhesions occur after the classical dilatation and evacuation, the dilatation and curettage, excessive curettage of the uterine cavity, which remove the basilis hair of the endometrium, which is responsible for the regeneration of the endometrium, is taken away with this curettage, which causes the fibrosis in the endometrium, and this fibrosis forms adhesions or bands in the uterine cavity. Patient usually comes with history of oligomenorrhea, sometimes amenorrhea after that incident. It's sometimes after some sort of infection, endometritis, after the normal delivery, after cesarean section, after some sort of hysteroscopy. Hysteroscopy usually have the less chance, but patient may comes with any manipulation. The history of manipulation in the uterine cavity, like curettage, delivery, cesarean section, any instrumentation, history of IUCD. Patient complains of oligomenorrhea, amenorrhea, and sometimes patient comes with subfertility. Investigation is usually, it can't be seen on the ultrasound because adhesion can be visualized properly either on the hysterosalpingogram or the hysteroscopy. Hysteroscopy has two benefits. You can examine the patient and see directly the uterine cavity for the bands or the fibrosis. At the same time, you can dissect that adhesions. When you resect that adhesions, the patient should have estrogen and progesterone in the form of OCPs, or you can give after acidosis in the form of IUCD, like Mirena. Patients should take these OCPs or high dose estrogen and progesterone for at least 3 months. After 3 months, you should follow the patient. The patient starts regular menstrual cycle or still the same complaints like oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea. Patient again needs high dose of estrogen and progesterone. Cervical stenosis. Cervical stenosis is the another cause of secondary amenorrhea. It occurs after traditional bone biopsy, any trauma to the cervix in the form of cervical tear during delivery, instrumental delivery, operative delivery, sometimes after the laser or the loop diathermy for taking biopsy or for the treatment of um, biopsy for the risk of biopsy if there's cervical intraepithelial neoplasia, and sometimes you do it therapeutically to remove the CIN 1, 2, or 3. The treatment of cervical stenosis is just the careful cervical dilatation. Ovarian causes. The most common ovarian cause for secondary amenorrhea is the polycystic ovarian disease, and second to this is the premature ovarian insufficiency. Polycystic ovarian disease. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, according to Rotterdam criteria, would define PCOE, polycystic ovarian syndrome, as the presence of two of the following three criteria. Either the patient is oligouric, anovulation, patient has anovulation, oligomenorrhea, or amenorrhea. Oligomenorrhea, when the cycle of the patient is prolonged, or the patient has scanty menses. Prolonged in the sense the patient has a longer duration of cycles, more than 35 days, or either patient presents with amenorrhea, prolonged amenorrhea up to 6 months or sometimes 8 months. Hyperandrogenism. Clinical features or signs and symptoms relating to hyperandrogenism, like patient comes with acne, hirsutism, baldness, temporal baldness, especially in the biochemical elevation of the testosterone. Usually, we not go for the testosterone, serial testosterone or the serum testosterone to diagnose the patient for polycystic ovarian disease. The third one is the polycystic ovaries assessed by the ultrasound. Ovaries with 10 or more follicles measuring around 2 to 9 millimeter in diameter, or either the increased ovarian volume more than 12 centimeter cube or 10 centimeter cube. These are the three criteria, and patient should have two to label the patient as a patient suffering from the polycystic ovarian disease, yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because it's a syndrome. It affects usually 15 to 20% of women, but certain studies in Pakistan show that around 30 to 40% of Pakistani women suffering from polycystic ovarian disease. It's a familial disorder. It runs in families. 50% of first degree relatives have polycystic ovarian disease. High prevalence in South Asian people because of the sedentary lifestyle, obesity, uh, dietary habits, and patients are more prone for hyperlipidemia. That's why these all these all are the risk factors for the South Asian people to develop PCOS. This diagram is showing how polycystic ovarian syndrome occurs. It is associated with obesity and insulin resistance, menstrual dysfunction, hyperandrogenism, acne, hirsutism, male pattern, baldness, hair loss, elevated serum androgens. This diagram is showing the pathophysiology of the polycystic ovarian disease. We start from the hypersecretion of androgens by stromal thecal cells. Stromal thecal cells produces androgens. These androgens causes the inhibition of the follicular growth. When there is the inhibition of the follicular growth, there is the excess of that immature follicles in the ovary. So there will be the increased secretion of LH by the pituitary gland to try to ovulate these immature follicles, and after that there will be exaggerated GnRH release from the hypothalamus. This exaggerated GnRH release from the hypothalamus will have a negative effect on the hypersecretion of androgens by the stromal fetal cells. Positive impact. And then it becomes a vicious cycle. Along with that, the serum insulin is a potent stimulator for androgen secretion by the ovary. So these two factors are responsible for the pathophysiology. One is the hypersecretion of androgen, and this hypersecretion of androgen is also potentiated by the increased serum insulin concentration. High level of insulin, besides potentiating the effect of hypersecretion of androgen, it also causes the high level insulin also responsible for the less production of sex hormone binding globulin, so that there will be a free fraction of androgens, and this free fraction of androgens causes increased androgen stimulation in the peripheral androgen receptors. So that's why the patient develops the symptoms of the increase and because of the increased androgens, increase in the 5 alpha reductase, and that it causes the conversion of the testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. This slide is showing the signs and symptoms of the polycystic ovarian disease, syndrome. The symptoms and the sign and the possible sequel after developing polycystic ovarian syndromes. The symptoms, as I already said, hyperandrogenism like acne, hirsutism, alopecia, but it's different from virilization. Virilization is different from hyperandrogenism. In virilization, there is the decrease in muscle mass, clitoromegaly. The other will be the menstrual disturbance, like menstrual irregularity in the form of oligomenorrhea and amenorrhea. Patient may be infertile because all these cycles are annullated. So there's a bright chance this patient will be subfertile that because of that annullatory cycles. And the increasing LH will also has a negative feedback. Obesity. Obesity has its own complications or sequel. Obesity has, the patient has obesity, so there's a high chance the patient has insulin resistance. Sometimes the polycystic ovarian syndrome patients are asymptomatic without polycystic ovaries on the ultrasound scan. These are the thin patients, thin and lean patients. So there are two types of patients in polycystic ovarian syndrome. Either the patient is obese or either the patient is thin and lean. If we see the serum endocrinology of these patients, the fasting insulin level is increased, usually more than 30 international units. The fasting insulin is not routinely measured, but beside sending patient for fasting insulin, it's better to have an OGTT, because if the patient has a tendency for diabetes due to this increased fasting insulin, patient can be excluded for diabetes by doing this OGTT, oral glucose tolerance set by the 75 grams glucose. Increase androgens in the form of testosterone and androstenedione, which is responsible for these hyperandrogenic symptoms like acne, hirsutism, or alopecia. Patient has normal LH. Sometimes there will be increased LH. Usually, patient has increased LH as compared to FSH. Normally, the ratio of the FSH and LH is FSH and LH is FSH is more than the LH, is a 3:1. But in cases of polycystic ovarian syndrome, it becomes reverse. LH will be more than FSH. There will be a decrease formation or production of sex hormone binding globulin, resulting in the elevated free androgen index, increased estradiol, estronol, increased prolactin. The possible sequel of polycystic patient is prone to diabetes mellitus due to this increased insulin, obesity, and ovulatory cycles. Dyslipidemia. Again, Dyslipidemia is due to this obesity and a patient tendency to have dyslipidemia. Hypertension, because of this lipidemia, and may have impaired glucose tolerance. Patient may have diabetes. So these are the complications of diabetes. The patient develop cardiovascular disease, hypertension. Because of the annuality cycle, patient has prolonged cycles. Annuality cycles, there's an increased chance that patient has endometrial hyperplasia. Patient moles in the follicular phase, so there is a thickening of the endometrium is more than the patient a normal menstrual cycle. If you do the ultrasound, usually patient endometrium thickness usually comes more than 6 centimeter, around 10 or 12 centimeter. So these patient has a bright chance to develop endometrial carcinoma in future. How would you manage a patient if patient has polycystic ovarian disease? First, patient needs counseling. Counseling about the lifestyle modification, about weight loss. Um, you should give your patient the knowledge about exercise. Counseling about diet. The patient should consume less carbohydrate, less fat, more protein, vegetables, and fruits. OGTT, oral glucose tolerance, should be uh, especially should be advising patient with BMI more than 30 kg per meter square. But it is said that if the patient has Southeast Asian origin or South Asian origin and the BMI is more than 25, so she should have an OGTT. If the BMI is more than 25, this is for the westernized women who have a BMI more than 30, they should have OGTT. But for Asian women, if the BMI is more than 25, we should have an OGTT. If the patient obesity can't be controlled by weight loss, lifestyle modification, exercise, diet modification, the patient can prescribe patient metformin. But metformin is usually prescribed when patient has a benefit after taking metformin. There is a weight reduction because the metformin is a biotics and it causes a peripheral conversion of glucose, utilization of glucose. If the patient is not respond after doing all these measures, so you can advise your patients about bariatric surgery. If the woman BMI is more than 35 kg per meter square, they it's a band around the stomach in the bariatric surgery, or there may be a bypass surgery for these patients. Sometimes there's a reduction because they do the surgery in such a way that they reduce the capacity of the stomach. So this is about the obesity. Now comes on the menstrual irregularity. Menstrual irregularity. The patient with PCO have thickened endometrium, endometrial hyperplasia. This endometrial hyperplasia is a risk factor for endometrial carcinoma. So these patients should have a withdrawal date after a certain time period, usually after 1 month or 1 to 3 months. Usually 1 to 3 months. Between that, you should provide your patient with progesterone because the body is deficient. The cycles, there is annual cycles of the deficiency of progesterone. You should provide your patient with progesterone to um, uh, to take the cycle into the proliferative phase. Medroxyprogesterone acetate for at least 12 days to induce withdrawal pain. Beside that, you can also provide your patients with Mirena. Advice for Mirena. Mirena is basically a hormone-containing IUCD intrauterine contraceptive device which can be inserted into the uterine cavity. It has some local effects in patients, especially who can't take progesterone due to some contraindications relative or absolute, like going heart problem, hypertension, valvular disease, liver disease. So you can advise these patients Mirena, uronostrol containing IUCD. This IUCD has local effect, causes the thinning of the endometrium, causes proliferative changes in the endometrium. It also gives patient contraceptive effect. It can be inserted for 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Now, hyperandrogenism and hirsutism. Hyperandrogenism and hirsutism can be treated. Hyperandrogenism causing hirsutism. The hair growth will be in the male form. The distribution of hair is in the male pattern. For evaluation of the degree of hirsutism, a standardized scoring system is used for the Ferryman-Golde scoring system. It shows 12 parts, 12 body parts. 12 body parts: upper lip, face, chin, jaw and neck, upper back, lower back, arm, thighs, chest, upper abdomen, lower abdomen, and perineum. And every single part uh, on this scale has a score of 0 to 3. It depends upon the growth of the hair. There are 12 points, and each part is can be given 0 to 3 numbers. If we score, so there will be a mild hirsutism if the patient score is less than 8. If the score comes between 16 and 25, that is called 8 to 16, that is called moderate. If it comes between 16 and 25, it is called 1 to 8. If the score comes between less than 8, is called mild. 8 to 16, moderate, and 16 to 25 is called severe hirsutism. Management. If the patient is subfertile, there are two types of patient. Are the patient sexually active, or the patient is single or not sexually active? So the patient sexually active with PCO, the important issue in these patients is the subfertility. These patients are usually subfertile, with prolonged subfertility. You should counsel these patients and advise for, as previously we advised, for weight loss, lifestyle modification, diet modification, exercise. Along with that, you can prescribe your patients with metformin. Other drugs like troglitazone or other drugs are used to are used in place of metformin uh, to control this hyperinsulinism or diabetes. But these drugs are withdrawn due to the death of patient from hepatotoxicity. The best treatment for subfertile patient with polycystic ovarian syndrome is to induce ovulation. Ovulation can be induced with oral and the parenteral pharmaceutical methods like in oral anti-estrogens like clomidine citrate, Lazra. Clomidine citrate is usually prescribed on the second day for 5 days, and at the time of ovulation, patient is provided with HCG which mimic the LH and causes ovulation. Clomidine citrate and Lazra may sometimes have a risk of multiple pregnancy, but there is a very less or rare chance the patient can develop OHSS. OHS is the ovulation hyperstimulation syndrome, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. This syndrome is caused usually after giving parenteral drugs for the ovulation induction, like FSH, recombinant. Recombinant FSH is pure FSH. It has no LH or HMG. HMG is the human menopausal gonadotropin, which contain both FSH and LH. You can prescribe your patients with FSH and along with FSH recombinant alone, or you can give your patient parenteral human menopausal gonadotropin. There are certain regimes for giving these parenteral for ovulation induction. Either you can combine it with oral tablets for induction like clomidine citrate or Lazra, or you can give these parenteral injections alone. There are certain protocols, short and long protocols. In short protocols, you can prescribe or you can give the patients parenteral FSH or HMG from the follicular phase. Or in the long protocol, you can give you can prescribe, or you can give your patients with these parenteral ovulation induction method in the secretory phase of the previous cycle. But these protocol is usually used in the IVF centers. But the side effects of parental or FSH is, or HMG, the parental methods are used like FSH and HMG. The side effects are multiple pregnancy, along with that ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. There is a bright chance the patient may develop ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. So better to give prescribe these patients with these drugs when patient has good compliance. Patient can follow you at your clinic, or you can prescribe your patient after admission in the hospital. The patient needs monitoring by doing ultrasound. On ultrasound, you can pick, because in the OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, there is the accumulation of the fluid in the third cavity of the body, like pleural effusion. Patient may develop pleural effusion, pericardial effusion, and the ascites. So patient needs hospital admission if patient develops the syndrome, and patient needs symptomatic treatment. Symptomatic treatment in terms that patient have electrolyte imbalance after the accumulation of the fluid. Patient may develop DVT. Patient may have breathlessness. The patient needs ICU care, or patient needs hospital admission with symptomatic treatment. If the patient do not respond on these regimes like ovulation induction with clomidine citrate, Lesra, or parenteral, so you can there is a last resort for these patients is the laparoscopic ovarian drilling. Laparoscopic ovarian drilling is the method in which laparoscopically we drill the ovaries from the 4 points forwards, and the ovary stimulates by doing the drilling. But sometimes this drilling causes the atrophy of the ovarian tissue. Sometimes causes adhesion with the surrounding structure. It should be done cautiously. But nowadays, in the articles, these are not a very these methods are not assumed the good methods, laparoscopic ovarian drilling, but still patient surgeons are using this method. This is all about polycystic ovarian disease, yes, syndrome. Now come to the premature ovarian insufficiency. When the cessation of periods accompanied by the raised gonadotropin level before the age of 40 years, that is called the premature ovarian insufficiency, and previously it is called premature ovarian failure. It occurs at any age, but usually it occurs before the age of 40. If patient comes to you, or a woman comes to you before the age of 40 with signs and symptoms of menopause, like menstrual regularity, um, menstrual regularity or hot flushes, the immediate symptoms of the menopause, or all these symptoms, so you can prescribe your patient, examine your patient, take the history, and advise certain investigations like FSH. LH, you can prescribe LH, but it's better to prescribe only FSH. 1 to 5% of female population is suffered with this premature insufficiency. 70% is due to chromosomal anomalies with primary amenorrhea. And basically, this chromosomal anomaly may be a Turner syndrome. Patient may have a family history. 2 to 5% of patient with secondary amenorrhea. Causes जो होते हैं इसके before puberty, chromosomal anomaly, maybe a chromosomal anomaly, maybe a patient has some certain sort of ovarian malignancy for which patient has taken radiotherapy or chemotherapy, certain type of ovarian autoantibodies, other autoimmune disorders like autoimmune disorders relating to thyroid, autoimmune disorders related to some other diseases. Treatment of these patients is usually the counseling, just like we do the counseling in the menopausal patients about lifestyle modifications, exercise, diet modification. And these patients usually need treatment in the form of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, for a longer period of time, because these patient age is less than these patients. The usual age of the menopause in Pakistan is around 47 to 48 years. and the UK it's 51. So if the patient has menopause before 40 years, so these patients need HRT, hormone replacement therapy in the form of estrogen and progesterone for a longer period of time, because the uh, complications, the sequel of the menopause like cardiovascular and the osteoporosis, these patients develops early. So for the prevention of osteoporosis, these patients should be provided with hormone replacement therapy and for the protective effect on cardiovascular system, because it will cause hyperlipidemia, hypertension, DVT, if patient has a history of um, thrombophilia. Fertility. For fertility concerns, maybe these patients are these women are nulliparous and they have fertility concerns for themselves. So these patients should be advised for IVF, in vitro fertilization. Ovum donation is not allowed in our region, but ovum donation is an option for the patients. Cryopreservation of oocysts, cryopreservation of oocysts and cryopreservation of ovaries. Cryopreservation of oocysts is better than cryopreservation of ovaries, because in the cryopreservation of ovaries there will be a damage to the ovaries if we preserve that ovaries. Usually the ovaries are preserved in the patients who have some sort of malignancy in the ovary, and these patients needs radiotherapy or chemotherapy. So before the treatment of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, the ovaries of these patients can be preserved. But the apoptosis and other things like damage to the ovaries are better. So it's better these patients should cryopreserve their oocysts. It's a better option than the cryopreservation of the ovaries. What are the pituitary causes of secondary amenorrhea? These are the we discussed the ovarian causes. Now we will discuss the pituitary causes of the secondary amenorrhea. Hyperprolactinemia. As prolactin is produced from the pituitary gland, there is elevation in the prolactin that is called hyperprolactinemia. If there is hyperprolactinemia, it has a negative feedback on the pituitary to secrete FSH and LH and the hypothalamus. If there is a mild elevation of, it means mild elevation, moderate elevation, or the maximum elevation in the serum prolactin level. Like if the elevation is less than 1,000, it's called mild elevation. And this elevation is due to hyperprolactinemia, maybe due to stress, some sort of anxiety, any uh, recent incident which is traumatic to brain, uh, mental trauma, recent physical examination, breast examination. If it is less than 1,000, it's better to repeat and do not start treatment on this raised level of prolactin. Patient has usually at raised level, there's a chance that patient has non-functioning tumors or microadenoma or macroadenoma. If there's a large non-functioning tumor, this tumor has no effect, it's just causing the pressure effect. So there's a chance the patient has more than less than 3,000 serum prolactin level. If patient has prolactin secreting microadenoma or macroadenoma, so there is a chance the patient increased level of prolactin. If there's microadenoma, the maximum chance that the level of prolactin will raise up to 4,000. If there's a macroadenoma, so there's a chance the level up to 8,000 more than that. Sometimes PCO patients have hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism patients or PCO patient have hyperprolactinemia, but the level is usually up to 2,500. Sometimes patients on antidepressant drugs, and these antidepressant drugs have hyperprolactinemia, serum increased level of serum prolactin, and when there's an increased level of serum prolactin, there's a negative feedback to the pituitary, and that's why the patients on antidepressants sometimes will be would be in for fertile. Investigations. If you're suspecting your patient has microadenoma, you will go for lateral X-ray skull, but nowadays X-ray skull is obsolete. Doctors usually advise CT or MRI. If there is a macroadenoma, 1 centimeter asymmetrically enlarged which will cause a double contour to slow erosion of the cleavage, the treatment is usually if the patient is already on certain drug and which causes a increased level of serum prolactin, it's better to stop the drug or shift the patient to some another drug or maintain the patient on the low dose. Two drugs usually prescribed to the patient for increased serum prolactin, the bromocriptine and the cabergoline. Cabergoline has less side effects than bromocriptine is usually prescribed at night because it has some side effects like nausea, vomiting, headache, postural hypertension, constipation. If patient do not respond on these drugs, so you can advise your patient for surgery, transspinal adrenalectomy. But patient have increased serum prolactin, the patient has some hormonal disturbance. It's better to have a multidisciplinary approach for these patients. You should involve the physician, you should involve the endocrinologist or the person who is specialized in this subject. It's better. We are not neurologists or neurosurgeons. Hypothalamic causes. There are certain primary causes and certain secondary causes for the primary causes are the primary tumors in the brain like pharyngioma, germinoma, glioma, dermoids. Treatment is usually surgery and radiotherapy. If patient has a surgery and radiotherapy, is a bright chance there will be trauma to the hypothalamus and the pituitary, and there will be a deficient hormone secretion. The secondary causes are the systemic conditions like sarcoidosis, tuberculosis, Sheehan syndrome. Systemic conditions like sarcoidosis and tuberculosis had mass in the brain and may cause pressure effect in the may produce pressure effects in the brain, or sometimes when there's a treatment it causes fibrosis or it may cause disturbance in pituitary or hypothalamus. Sheehan syndromes usually occur at the time of when the patient has a history that patient has massive hemorrhage in the previous pregnancy or delivery. Less blood supply to the pituitary gland, and there will be a damage to the pituitary which causes deficient hormone secretion like FSH, LH, TSH. Investigation, you have to assess the pituitary function fully by advising or prescribing all hormones to the patient. Treatment is if for fertility treatment or for the gynecological treatment, you should prescribe your patient the GnRH, which mimic the hormone secreted by the hypothalamus, or the HMG, the human menopausal growth hormone. It depends what patient needs. Or if patient wants to be pregnant again, so you can give your patient ovulation induction in the same way as you have given your patient the polycystic ovarian disease, starting with the oval, then shifting to the parenteral, and after that follow the IVF and all these things. These are the hypothalamic causes. It's all about amenorrhea. If you have any question, write your questions in the comment box. Why does third spacing occur in OHSS? Because of the albumin. What are the diet modification for lean PCOS? Lean PCOS means that fat content of the body is less, so that's why there's a the fat is responsible for the production of the at least 25% of body weight should be of fat, because fat is necessary for the productions of hormones. How exercise can cause amenorrhea? If there is extreme exercises like by ballet dancers and the athletes, so this causes the less fat in the body, and at least 25% of body fat should be present for the production or the formation of hormones. Any specific exercise? Exercise just not to lose the weight, keeps your body active. It's better you should have exercise like running, jogging, exercising on the machines. Skipping is another exercise. Any exercise which keeps you active. You means the person with PCOS. Any other question? What are the diet modification? Role of myoinositol supplements for PCOS. Myoinositol is works same as metformin. It causes the decrease the serum insulin level. Why is it recommended to preserve oocytes rather than ovaries? Because in the ovaries there's a greater chance than the oocyte the apoptosis occurs. That's why it's better to keep oocytes rather than ovaries. Yes, it is possible that FSH is normal in 1 month and markedly raised in the menopausal level and very next month because the FSH fluctuates in the perimenopausal and the menopausal phase. So it may occur. It fluctuates. Sometimes it becomes normal. Sometimes it becomes abnormal, and patient may conceive in that phase. How come stress-related amenorrhea be treated? It's better to avoid stress. If patient can't avoid stress, so it's better to discuss some anxiolytic. Please type your question again. No in a young married lady. In a young married lady, FSH normally in 1 month markedly raised to menopausal level. What is the age of this married lady? It's young, so what's the age? 28. So it's better to repeat this as sometimes there's a laboratory error. We can't comment on just one level that patient has menopausal level. It's not necessary that this patient has a premature ovarian failure, premature ovarian insufficiency. It's better to repeat the test. After how long you repeat that test? How many months? Does PCOS affect the tennis switching or breast development? No. Next step, it should be repeated after at least 3 months. On which day of the cycle? It's better to have the FSH on the first 3 days of the cycle. Okay. For the second, it is better to repeat the rest of the 3 months. Maybe it's a laboratory error. It never happens in follicular phase. Normally, in the 28 years old lady, it should be less than 8. Is it necessary to have secondary oxygen hormone to recover irregular cycles? Maybe she has lactational amenorrhea. We have to take the history before deciding if patient has secondary amenorrhea. For PCS Rotterdam criteria, what do you want to ask? Short protocol is that you start inducing the patient from the second day or third day of the cycle. Sometimes some people induce the patient from the first day of the cycle, but in the long protocol, we induce the patient from the secretive phase of the previous cycle. Duration of amenorrhea in Rotterdam criteria. Usually the prolonged cycle is the cycle, the duration of the cycle is more than 35 days. Rotterdam criteria has no specific time period for amenorrhea. Maybe patient has amenorrhea for 6 to 8 months, 6 months, 8 months. I have seen patients with 10 or 12 months. For diagnosing PCO, we should do the ultrasound on the 12th day of the cycle. Because on the 12th day, you will see the maximum size of the follicles. If the patient has PCO, the size of the follicles is usually between 2 to 9 millimeter because they are immature follicles. In multiple follicles arranged in the periphery, the pearl necklace appearance of the ovaries on ultrasound. So you should better have an ultrasound done on the 12th day. Some people do the ultrasound on the 6th and 7th day, but it's better to have the ultrasound on the 12th day of the cycle. If you do the ultrasound on the 6th or 7th day, you have to follow the patient and get a tracking ultrasound. You have to do tracking ultrasound. Okay, what will be the maximum size of the follicles? Because follicle is in the growing period, the size is increasing till the 12th day, till ovulation occurs. So usually 12 to 14 ovulation has occurred. It's better to have it 12 day on 12 day. Seed cycling. Seed cycling. Seed cycling. Any other question? Clinical presentation depends. The patient is nulliparous, sexually active or non-sexually active patient. If the sexually active patient comes, the patient may come with dyspareunia, with transverse vaginal septums, depending upon the thickness and the localization of the septum. It's high in the vagina, so maybe she has less dyspareunia. If it is near the introitus, she may have severe dyspareunia, and patient may come during antenatal checkups or uh, at the time of delivery, some doctor diagnosed. If the patient is unmarried, is unusual, the patient finds septum. It may go unnoticed. Why giving adusel is hormones after adulation? Because again, if there is no hormone, there will be no regrowth of endometrium. For the regrowth or for the growth of the endometrium, we should prescribe estrogen because estrogen is responsible for the growth of the endometrium, and the secretory ranges occur with progesterone. So it's better to combine both. First, for 3 months, it's better to give estrogen and then progesterone, or you can combine both of the two, estrogen and progesterone. It's necessary to give because again the fibrosis will occur because after you have separated the adhesions or adhesive appear than adhesiolysis, there's a high chance that patient again develop adhesions because raw area again will start granulation tissue and develop fibrosis. So it's better to prescribe your patients with estrogen and progesterone, and above than that, it's better to keep an IUCD inside the uterine cavity for at least 3 months to prevent the adhesions again. Any other question? Ji, write your question in comment box. What are the McIntyre and Vichiati procedures? McIntyre is a procedure which is done for vaginoplasty. McIntyre is a vaginoplasty procedure in which graft is taken from the patient's thigh or some other parts under thighs and from the uh, amnion and chorion of the placenta. It is inserted with the help of mold in patient's vagina, and this graft is attached with the wall of the vagina to form new vagina. And Bicadi procedure is a procedure in which a plastic olive is inserted in the loose aerated tissue of vagina, and the two strings are attached with this olive, and it is attached with the anterior abdominal wall. The reason the aim is just to produce pressure in that area to make the cavity.
मैम क्लास एंड हो गई?
Any other question?
क्लास एंड हो गई मैम?
या किसी को क्वेश्चन पूछना है तो पूछना. Anything else you want to ask? Okay, thank you very much.
तो मैडम अल्लाह हाफिज़.
Allah Hafiz.